Hello, welcome to another edition of Film Club, and today is the day. I'm finally going to do a full review. I did a mini review of this in the very first episode of Film Club, but I wanted to expand my thoughts on what I am calling the worst movie I have ever seen, and that's a bold statement, which is called A Cure for Wellness. This is not only the worst movie of 2017, this is easily the worst movie I've ever seen. And that's, again, a bold statement. Holy shit, man, where do I begin on this debacle? This film is a gigantic mess. And the one and only positive thing that I will say about it is a very well-made mess, and in terms of the cinematography, the film looks very striking. That being said, this film was given a $40 million budget. They gave $40 million to make this piece of garbage, and wow. It shows. I think it only made about 8 million back, so it was a bomb. And alright, let's begin. So the film opens up with a man in an office setting who keels over, has a heart attack, and dies. And we're introduced to the character of Lockhart, who's played by Dane DeHaan. Now, you might not know who he is. This was the kid from Chronicle. He did a pretty good job there. He was also Harry Osborn in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I think he was in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Those movies aren't very good, but he was okay in them. I think he's a pretty good up-and-coming actor. He has kind of a young Leonardo DiCaprio look to him, and that makes him kind of an appealing actor to a lot of people. Unfortunately, he's trapped in a really shitty movie. It kind of comes to light that his character may or may have not caused this man to have a heart attack, so you could take this person's position. They don't actually directly tell you this in the movie, but it's very heavily implied. So the heads of this company decide to punish him, not by, calling the cops, because that's crazy. No, they have a better idea. Let's send him to the Swiss Alps to retrieve the CEO of this company because they need his presence to sign some documents for some big merger that is coming up. And they allude to this whole shady business of maybe he caused this other guy's death, maybe not. They never go back to it. So that's the first problem with this movie. They never once address that issue again. And that's ridiculous to me. So, flash forward to, he travels to the Swiss Alps. You get like a good 10 minutes of travel montage and all that kind of shit. He gets there, and on the way up to this wellness clinic, which is in this huge gothic looking castle, the driver of his car tells him this weird jacked up story about how a baron used to own this castle, and he wanted to keep his bloodline pure, so he married his sister and tried to impregnate his sister, and his sister was infertile. So what he did was he did a bunch of experiments on the townspeople and cured her infertility, and they were going to have a child. He actually successfully impregnated her, and the townspeople found out. They realized like how jacked up this is, and they burned down the castle with him inside it and the sister. End of story. And while this guy's telling him this story, I'm totally not thinking that that's really going to pertain to the plot of this movie. And I really went into this movie thinking it was going to be like a Shutter Island type situation. But what if I told you that, no, that's actually a main plot point of this movie. That's a main plot point of this movie. That whole story I just told you is a main plot point of this flick, which is 2.5 hours, by the way. 2.5 hours long this movie is. So, he gets to the clinic, he tries to get in, he tries to get the CEO, they're giving him a lot of resistance, he gets frustrated, he tries calling these people back in New York, they're not answering, he gets pissed off and he leaves. So on their way out, he and the driver are involved in a car accident because a deer runs across the road, and he wakes up 3 days later with a cast on his leg in this clinic where he's finally introduced to Jason Isaacs' character, and I love Jason Isaacs as an actor, but again, he's stuck in a real turd of a movie here. And his character's name is Dr. Vollmer, which I think I said it right, Vollmer. Who really cares? The movie sucks. So, I mean, it really does suck. He tells him, he starts to give him this whole bullshit, like, hey, you know what, people are genuinely sick and we're trying to help them here. You're sick too. And he starts doing experiments on him as well while this man is walking around on crutches. There's a really weird jacked up scene where they stick him in a tank with eels, and eels are a big part of this movie, and it's like a sensory deprivation tank. So they throw him in there and they tell him like, hey, we're gonna put you in here, this is supposed to relieve tension and all this other bullshit. You might see some weird shit while you're in this tank, but it's all a dream, ha ha ha, kind of a thing. He's in this tank, and he starts having eels surround him, and he thinks he's dreaming this bullshit, and so he starts freaking out, and he's banging on the glass of this tank because there's a little glass window. During this sequence, there is an orderly who's just standing there doing nothing, and a nurse walks in and takes her top off, and this guy's like, what? And he literally whips out his dick. You don't see this, and he starts masturbating. And this whole bullshit is going on while this guy is banging on this window trying to get out. And I'm just sitting here like, this is like 1:30 in the morning. I'm watching this movie. I'm like, what the hell am I watching? Like, what is the purpose of this? How does this have anything to do with anything that's going on in this movie? It's ridiculous. And they don't really go back to it. He gets out and it's kind of like, yeah, you saw some weird shit in that tank, right? Ha ha ha. And that's it. That's it. Oh man. So anyways, he meets a weird young girl named Hannah. And Hannah, again, very weird girl. He's trying to get away from this place because he's seeing all this kind of crazy shit, and shit's getting weird. And it comes to light, finally, in this movie, and I'm jumping around a lot. What happens is he gets into this wing of the hospital where all these crazy experiments are going on that he's not supposed to know about. And through discovery, he finds out that the Baron from 200 years ago that supposedly died in this fire is actually still alive, and it's Jason Isaacs' character. And that girl, Hannah, is actually his daughter that he had with his sister 200 years ago, who died 200 years ago. But don't worry, Jason Isaacs didn't die. And his whole plan now, what's his whole plan now? Oh shit, his whole plan now is he's been waiting for Hannah to churn of the right age so he can just impregnate her. Yeah, that's where this movie goes, and it's really jacked up and ridiculous and just a complete pile of shit if we're being honest. The end of this movie, and I'm getting a little ahead of it, there's also a whole bullshit thing where people are taking this drop of liquid on their tongue, and that's weird as shit. He gets in there, and what he's figured out is this doctor, this Baron, has figured out that he can harness the power through eels to suck the life essence out of people. And that way he is taking this life essence to prolong his life. That's how he's been able to live for, like 300 some years or whatever. It's ridiculous. And the end of this movie is literally his character, Jason Isaacs' character, the doctor, tries to rape his own daughter so you can have another kid in this pure bloodline, and it all gets stopped by the main character, Lockhart, and there's a sequence in where, as he's punching him, they have a little scuffle at the end of this movie, and he punches, his face comes off, and you can see all the burn marks, and this should have been the one thing where I was like, okay, that looks cool. It looked hideous and terrible. CGI was used once again in a really bad way, and it just looks like trash. And again, this is a 2.5 hour thing. This isn't some 90-minute movie. I know I summed it up in about 5 minutes, but let me tell you, this is a 2.5 hour journey. And I know there's been some stuff I haven't even talked about in this movie because honestly, it's not worth your time. This is a garbage fire of a movie. I cannot believe, and I said this in my previous video where I talked about this movie briefly, but I cannot believe that anyone in Hollywood sat down, read the script for this thing, and said, gee, that seems like a good idea. Oh, look here. This guy, he lived for 200 years, and he was married his own sister, and he wanted to keep his bloodline pure. Now he's going to rape his own daughter 200 years later. What? Huh? Who sat and thought this was a good idea? This is ridiculous garbage. I cannot believe that this is a movie that came out in any year, but especially in 2017. I'm glad it bombed. I'm glad people didn't go to the theater to see this. I would have walked out. I honestly, when we got to the fight at the end of the movie, I legitimately thought about turning off, but I'm a big advocate for sticking through an entire movie. It takes a lot for me to turn off a movie, but this one really pressed my buttons, but I was like, no, I have to see the end of this. I have to see if this flick gets any better. It does not. It is horseshit. It is trash. Do not watch this thing. It's so unbelievably bad, and it's 2.5 hours. They just stretch this thing out so freaking long, and you're just sitting there like, why am I watching this? Why, God, am I watching this thing? It's ridiculous. I cannot believe this was a movie that came out. And the sad thing about it is, I was kind of excited about it. I like the director, Gore Verbinski. He made the original Pirates of the Caribbean. So he's a known quantity in Hollywood. He's made some good flicks. And I was excited. I was like, all right, cool. Someone's making a big budget horror movie. They don't give budgets to horror movies like they used to, Besides the recent Stephen King's It, which has been a commercial and, critical success, you don't get these kind of big Hollywood budgets for horror flicks. And this freaking thing was given $40 million. $40 million! That's a lot of money, man, and it's all trash. Like, this whole thing, man, I can't believe it, man. 2 thumbs way down. Like, if I could grow a 3rd arm, I would grow a 3rd arm to keep pressing this thing down. I can't believe, man. I cannot believe this thing exists. Don't watch it. You know, if you don't believe me, go on Wikipedia and read the plot summary of this movie. I can't make this shit up. It's ridiculous. 2 thumbs way down. Don't see it. Worst movie of the year. Probably the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life, and that's saying a lot. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed me ranting about this shit-ass movie for a while. Hope you guys remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.